We talk about our early impressions of the 2020 Nissan Versa, an update to the federal crash testing program, and do new cars today have too many safety features? Next on Talking Cars. Hi, and welcome to Talking Cars. I'm Jennifer Stockberger.
I'm Gabe Shanhar.
And I'm John Linkove.
So today we're going to start with news about crash tests. So the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration announced this week that they are going to update the current new car assessment program, NCAP when we shorten it. And these are the crash tests, et cetera, that give vehicles their star safety ratings, very important to consumers. Mm-hmm. So Gabe, any history, et cetera, on this idea?
Yeah, this program started in the 70s, and it has seen a few updates over the years. Most recently, back in the early 2000s, they added a side crash test, right. And they added a static stability factor as a predictor for rollover propensity. Mm-hmm. But the reality today is that the star system, with every car getting 5s and 4s, is not discerning enough and is not very helpful to consumers. And other programs, such as by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, mm-hmm. Have eclipsed what NHTSA does, and they offer they introduce new tests based on new research, and there is a good system of differentiation there, which is more helpful to consumers.
Right. They didn't give a lot of detail about what the changes were, but if you go back, we commented on in 2016 on the same idea. They were working on it then, which was, again, additional crash tests, this frontal mm-hmm. oblique, more updated dummies that were more representative of the population, sure. And then not just doing some of the advanced safety technologies that we love as just recommended technologies, but actually including their availability in the rating, much like we do. So, but they haven't gotten there yet. And it's so funny. You say it started in the 70s. The rest of the world kind of emulated mm-hmm. the new car assessment program, but have done, quite frankly, like you look at the European version, the Euro NCAP, they do many more tests than we do, John.
The IHS, Insurance
right.
Institute for Highway Safety, always seems to be challenging their students, the automakers, yeah. to do better.
Raising the curve.
In this way, yes, they all, I won't say they all, but you tend to study for the test,
right.
Tend to prepare for the test. Mm-hmm. Don't go extra if you're not going to be asked that. But IHS stops that in many ways, prevents that by constantly upping the ante, so to speak. And unfortunately, NHTSA's test procedures right now, it's kind of like, well, I know the test already. I don't even have to study. And if you look at consumerreports.org and you call up our vehicle ratings, you'll see the results. You'll see the marginal or the good for the IHS results, and then you just see a lot of stars. And it's 5-star and 5-star, 5-star, and here's a 4.
Right.
It's not if every car's passing, like you said, then it's not really helping you anyway.
Right. Also, in terms of number of models and the time to market, mm-hmm. the NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety, lags behind the insurance highway safety.
In terms of when they test them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's important, that the star ratings, there's some misconception, that is not required. That is a consumer information program, very much like our own, in that the cars have to pass mandatory federal motor vehicle safety standard crash tests. Right. This is not a requirement, so they don't have to have star ratings.
What's really interesting, given that we buy every vehicle we test, we get the window sticker, the Monroney. Is named after the senator who, I think a senator who mandated having this consumer information. And plenty of new cars that you buy, you'll go and buy it right off the showroom floor. It's blank for the NHTSA crash tests. Right. You know that they will provide the bare minimum of safety from, like you said, the federal motor vehicle safety standards.
Right.
That's so minimal.
Right. So capping it all off, we are very positive to see this system updated. It is not a standard, so technically they should be able to move a little more quickly. We'll see what changes actually get proposed. We hope it happens soon. For more information on this, we do have content on our website, consumerreports.org. Moving to From the Track. So this week we purchased and have begun accumulating miles on the 2020 Nissan Versa. So just a couple of specs. This is a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder, 122 horsepower, small sedan, up from 109 horsepower in the outgoing version. Not huge. It comes with a CVT or 5-speed manual, 35 miles per gallon according to EPA. Has been a long time since an update, right, Gabe?
Yeah, this is the third generation of the Nissan Versa. But before that, something about subcompacts in general. I mean, this class of cars are hard to like. Manufacturers need to save both cost and weight with these cars.
Right.
The profit margin is minimal. So you end up with cars that are kind of noisy, hard riding, with uncomfortable seats, with very minimal basic interiors. And for people who are looking for a good fuel economy, nowadays there's hardly any daylight between the fuel economy. I mean, you're saying 35 miles per gallon for, according to the EPA. We're seeing some mid-size sedans, not to mention regular compact sedans that get 34, 33 miles per gallon. So, and the hardest problem for subcompacts is the competition from used cars. Much nicer 2 or 3 year old used cars that are much more substantial and make you feel like you got much more for your money, and you don't feel as vulnerable on the road. I mean, safety-wise, yeah, I mean, they pass everything. I mean, they look good in crash tests these days. But when you're the smallest car on the road, surrounded by everybody who's larger than you, you're at a disadvantage.
Yeah. John, did you get in it? Do you find it hard to like?
I was going to say, so other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the show? I mean, it's almost the entire class, and I agree. Everything you said was on point, because it's a very tough class. And now, I mean, I was shocked at the price, because I think of the Versa as when as base price, like 11,000, 12,000, when they were, when it's just in your mind of these very affordable, quote unquote, econo boxes, 18.9 as tested, excuse me. Yeah, used car, move up to a compact car, move into a compact SUV. You're not going to be giving up a lot either. That said,
well, and Nissan actually has the Nissan Kicks, which is priced almost not that far away from the Versa. And that, in fact, replaced the Versa Note, if you remember, which had a hatchback version of the Versa.
Well, and it's front-wheel drive, because they even said, yeah, we're not going to make it all-wheel drive, the Kicks, because we just want someone who wants to come out of a small front-wheel drive car and go into a slightly taller front-wheel drive car, basically. I mean, it's a fine car. Not to knock anyone who's going to go and buy this car. It rode well for the class.
For its size.
Not really noisy for the class. Materials, there are a lot of hard plastic. But you get that. I'm happy they didn't make the dash all soft. Like, you see so many car manufacturers, they make the dash nice and soft, and then there's a hard elbow.
Well,
great. Don't make the dash soft. Don't waste money there. I was disappointed that my arm fell into this really hard plastic piece. So there's a nice piece on the door armrest. It's like, oh, nice soft material, and then hard, and that's where my arm fell.
Of course.
Probably the biggest thing is that our car has a few hundred miles on it, and there's already now we don't do squeaks and rattles from our car for reliability, but it already squeaks up top.
The headliner somewhere.
If you're spending $18,000 or plus of your money, you expect a car that's 2 weeks old to at least not squeak. So that's disappointing.
I'm going to, and again, I agree with everything you're saying. It's not fancy. It needs more power, all of that. I'm going to put the mom hat on for a second, though, and skew, you said the smallest car on the road, skew a little bit to crash avoidance in that, agreed, the price range 14.7 to 18.2. This is a car where if you are buying new, Nissan has added that Nissan Safety Shield 360 standard equipment, automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane departure warning, that you can get this on this car,
Yes.
as opposed to competitors like Accent, Fit, Rio, where this is either optional or not available, as a means of getting, particularly, and I say the mom hat, a young driver into a car with these features at an affordable price.
And
and simplified controls. There's nothing fancy.
Well, I was going to say, and they're not cost cutting there either.
Right.
Use the word detense. Some people may not know what it is. It's when you turn a knob and it clicks in the spot.
Right.
It doesn't have flimsy where you, oh my gosh, I went from cold to hot. Right. Oh, the heat is now at level 5. Rich feeling. The full function infotainment system. So very
Apple CarPlay.
Right.
Premium
Almost things you would
with the
want.
SV when you get the SV.
Right.
It has the rear seats, real fine for kids.
Actually, the
climbing in
rear
and out.
seat. Speaking of the rear seat, the Versa used to be the space wonder with an amazing rear
Right,
seat
right.
in the first and second generation, and now it doesn't have that anymore.
I took my 15-year-old high school boys to school, and it was a bit tight in that rear seat.
They're gonna.
So,
I mean, for my kids, they were perfect. And they clamber in and out, and easy with the doors to get in, and allow a foot room for backpacks. So certainly a fine small car. It's just it's not a great category to begin with. So it's expectations.
Right.
But
And
the safety information, you're dead on.
for the class, I think that
Dead on.
offering is really great. If you're buying new, but your budget just says this is where you're going to be, I think that's great. So
No, and that's great because a lot of these cars are going to find their way into rental fleets
Correct.
or
Right. How many
parents
times?
that
Yes.
are buying these cars for their kids. So that's wonderful.
yes.
And in the world of rental fleets, that's got to be a midsize.
No, John.
Probably.
Once we get so great. Stay tuned. Obviously, we will be testing the Versa, and we'll have more about it. So we're going to move on to audience questions. Keep them coming. We have one video, couple written questions. TalkingCars@iCloud.com. I say it every time. We love, love, love them. So the first is from John in Iowa. Take a listen.
Good morning, Talking Cars. This is John from Iowa. I have a 2017 Ford Expedition with 3.5-liter V6 Ecoboost, and my wife has the 2-liter Ecoboost in her Edge. I'm just curious about the long-term reliability of these engines and if there's any preventative maintenance that should be done over the long term to keep them running well. Thanks a lot. Keep doing a great job.
Okay, so John is specifically talking about a couple of EcoBoost versions from his Ford vehicles. John, any answers for John?
Yeah, so we actually last year, right around this time, looked at some of our reliability data at small turbo engines. And by small, you're talking a 4-cylinder, maybe some 6 cylinders.
Right.
Like Ford makes a 2.7 liter V6 turbo. Okay,
Right.
2.7 liters is small historically for a 6-cylinder engine.
Right.
But that replaces a 5-liter V8.
Well, right. It replaces a big engine. But, some people say like small turbo 4 or 3. No, you can have a V6. But our data really showed that the transmission and engine in both those, the 2-liter
V5 and the
turbocharged EcoBoost in the Edge, and then also the 3.5-liter V6, they were fine. There's not any problems. Engine transmission combination. Really, the biggest for those model years, the biggest thing that you see is what you see in a lot of cars today: infotainment and electrical issues.
Right.
Freezing systems. Cuts in and out, stuff like that.
But to John's question, nothing he can do.
Nothing he can do.
maintenance-wise.
Well, no, that's the thing. That's the one issue.
He's not gonna fix
Maintenance-wise,
that,
do
right.
the oil changes.
Yep.
Change the filters.
Yep.
Do the cheap maintenance that's going to give you the best return. And follow what's in the guidebook. The one thing is that there is the normal use and the extreme use, and it tends to be that most people fall into extreme use.
Right.
Even if they're doing I just drive around town, but it's those cold starts and stops
Right.
and such. Unless if you live in a dusty area, then that's you have to change filters more often, particularly cabin filters, air filters.
And if the manufacturer calls for a synthetic oil,
Yes.
don't cheap out and
Right,
go
do
for a
it.
synthetic.
Right. What's longer?
Even synthetic, again, it's cheap insurance is what you say.
Yeah.
Change the filter and the oil, and that'll go a long way.
So it sounds like John had a couple good choices in there. So
yeah.
good. Next is a written question from Matthew. Can you please talk about and address the fact that there are too many safety features that many people think should be standard? These safety systems range from pedestrian detection all the way to rear seat child reminders. If all of these systems are standard, the prices of cars will be much higher than they are now. These systems also encourage people to be distracted and operate a vehicle in an unsafe manner because they believe that the car will save them if need be. No one walks next to you on a sidewalk or rides on the back of your bicycle and reminds you to be safe. We should not force automakers to put so many standard features that no one can afford them. So, first of all, Matthew, let's be clear that CR, Consumer Reports, is one of those people who think these things should be standard. So I just want to make that clear. We believe many of them are effective and should be standard. But Gabe, do you want to help Matthew out in working through that logic?
Well, of course, we're all great drivers, so who needs that? But the reality is that there is going to be a moment that someone somewhere is going to be distracted. Someone somewhere is going to have a human error.
Right.
And if this kind of these kind of features are going to save you from a disaster, then it's all worth it. And this is progress. This is, I mean, you're not going to buy a black and white TV because it's cheaper now, right? So as these systems become more prevalent, the price goes down. They become more mainstream. It's easier for manufacturer to include them. The consumer awareness grows and the demand grows, and that's
parts get cheaper, supply gets cheaper, exactly, right? Everything.
Yeah, par for the course.
Yeah, John?
Look, don't chew paint. We can keep lead paint. We don't need regulations. Don't have, asbestos did a great job. We don't have to worry about that. Just don't inhale it. I mean, at some point it's, something is there and it's fine, but you need regulations at times to spur. Seatbelts, manufacturers were just throwing seatbelts in, you had to have regulations.
Yeah.
I mean, and to Gabe's point, I actually unfriended someone who I knew through high performance driving schools, Audi club or BMW club, because we got in an argument and he became insulting about the fact that I don't need these systems. I can brake faster than any system. I'm a high performance driver, and it devolved into insults and such.
Oh, no.
I was like, you can't. I'm sorry. You're not
right.
that great. Even professional race car drivers will get into a fender bender on the street.
I counter that, and I'm sure we've all had similar discussions because we are around people who are drivers, if you will. You're the best driver in the world. I'll give you that. But what about the person behind you? What if they're a terrible driver? What if they're a distracted driver? Don't you want them to have these systems? It's the same thing I say with my kids. You're not the only person on the road. If you never need these systems, that's fantastic. But you want all the cars around you to have them. And, Gabe, you were talking about price. There is societal benefits to us reducing the number of crashes, the number of fatalities, the number of injuries in any way we can, be it in our insurance costs, be it in our medical insurance costs. All of that comes back around to benefit everyone when crashes.
Time on the road. I mean,
right.
So you're driving, the guy
traffic.
slams on the brakes, the person behind you is not paying attention, doesn't have automatic emergency braking, plows into you, you plow into them, and now, you're caught with, with the highway shut down. So if you're the guy stuck back there, you're annoyed as anything.
Right.
In the last few years, we've been driving cars that are equipped that way, and I can attest, I'm not exactly a lousy driver, there were a few times, I'll admit that blind spot warning helped me, or a forward collision warning, or something like that.
We've said the words, we said the Save My Bacon features, and we actually have verbatims of people in our survey that use the words Save My Bacon.
Yeah.
So those are our thoughts, Matthew. Hopefully that gives some sense of why we feel so strongly that these should be standard, but it's a great counter. It's a great consideration anyway. Our next question is from Boris from Ontario, Canada. In the good old days, if a headlight went out, you'd just buy a relatively inexpensive replacement and put it in place by yourself following instructions in the owner's manual. Nowadays, traditional headlamps are substituted with LEDs, even on budget cars. Absolutely true. And usually LEDs are soldered onto a board that is sealed into an assembly. In such cases, manufacturers suggest replacing the whole assembly, which, especially in the case of technically complex headlights, might cost thousands of dollars. Even worse, chances are that this will happen way after the warranty expiration, and all of the expenses will be on the owner. I'd really like to hear your opinion on the subject. So, being headlight person, I hope you guys don't mind that I keep talking.
We'll just we'll stand over here.
So, yes, the appeal of the LEDs, and he's absolutely right, mainstream cars, is longer life, inexpensive source, smaller source for the stylist. So I don't think we've seen, I put it kind of in with the EV batteries, a lot of LED source failures. So, but I will say, to answer Boris, we have a lot of high-performing halogens, replaceable bulb halogens, which he's couching as traditional, that are still out there. If this is a big concern of Boris or anyone else, opt for the halogen. Yeah. It may need a change, in model, but if it's something you're concerned about, there are many where you can just go to the traditional halogen replaceable bulbs, $20. We have not seen, certainly in our reliability or anything, a rash of having to replace LEDs, but they're still relatively new. So that would be my advice for Boris. So hopefully helpful. Question 4 is David from Iowa. I'm replacing my 2008 Camry Hybrid, and I'm looking for a quieter, more luxurious car with better ride and handling for road trips. The new Avalon and Lexus ES hybrids are obvious choices, though I'm somewhat concerned they might be too large. I'm also intrigued by a plug-in or possibly a battery EV. What do you recommend considering cars and SUVs available now and those on the horizon? Gabe, thoughts for David?
If you liked your Camry Hybrid, then there's no reason why you shouldn't buy a new Camry Hybrid. Your 08 Camry Hybrid got 34 miles per gallon in our tests, and the current Camry Hybrid gets 47 miles per gallon. So there's been a huge progress in terms of hybrid technology. So I bet you're going to be happy with that. As to a pure electric vehicle, I don't think, barring an Audi e-tron for $80,000, you're not getting any more comfortable ride than Camry Hybrid in any existing electric vehicle.
You're stopping more often to charge.
And you're
road tripping.
It's a different kind of thing. I mean, it requires a lot more planning, particularly for a long road trip.
Yeah. John?
So I'm personally not an Avalon, a Lexus ES fan. I don't like the current styling. Doesn't suit me well. Honda Accord Hybrid. I'll see your 47 miles per gallon and match you at 47 miles per gallon. I will concede that the shifter, the gear selector in the Honda Accord Hybrid is annoying with the buttons, but that's fine. Ride, I think, is slightly better. We've said. It's a high, and it's roomy. It's not huge like the other ones. So I think the Accord is a good one. It gives the space. It's not gigantic.
Right.
It rides well, and I like it better than the Camry.
They're comparable. So David, pick whatever you like.
Right. I said, and I kind of honed in on his more luxurious, to do the Avalon Hybrid. You're right. I'll have to give you the 42 miles per gallon. But I kind of ticked off the boxes: 93 road test score, excellent reliability, excellent owner satisfaction, standard safety, IIHS top safety pick plus. I was just like, it doesn't get any better than Avalon Hybrid. Easier to use controls than the Lexus ES.
Yes.
So that was my skew to the Avalon. Yes, it's bigger, but I think you'll be very happy. For me, and I am a fan of those bigger. I'm getting old, but absolutely a fabulous road trip car.
I was trying to figure out some of the things he was looking for. Like an SUV, but he's doing road trips. Well, but if mileage is key, then you're not getting that. What are you going to get? 29, 27 in a Highlander hybrid. So that's why I think sticking right in that class.
Right.
Those choices can't go wrong.
Right. David, just stick where you're at, a little bigger. Perhaps. So that will do it for this episode. As always, more information, see the show notes. Keep the questions coming. TalkingCars@iCloud.com. And we'll see you next time.